Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Zich, a partner at Thompson Hine, co-chair of the firm's privacy and cybersecurity team. I'd like to welcome everyone to the second installment of our Two Big Things legal webinar series. Thompson Hine is very proud to be both a member and a supporter of Ohio Life Sciences and is committed to the success of the life sciences market and environment here in the state of Ohio. As part of that, we're presenting our Two Big Things webinar series, in which at each session we provide two topics and a quick, hard-hitting discussion of issues that are important to you and your business and your future. We are fortunate today to have as our two presenters two of my colleagues, Sean Ganley, who is a key member of our corporate and new ventures group, and Faith Charles, who is the chair of our life sciences practice. They'll be talking today about fundraising and corporate governance issues relevant to your business. As we go along, feel free to put comments into the chat feature, questions, comments, inquiries you may have. I'll moderate those. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to Sean for your portion, and then we'll turn it over to Faith.
Great, thanks, Tom. Appreciate the intro. As Tom said, I'm going to talk a little bit about the fundraising side of things, specifically drilling down into what we're seeing a lot of these days, which is internal rounds, which are often bridge rounds, and which are often in the form of a convertible security. So I'm going to kind of dive down into the different types of convertible securities we're seeing, a little bit about each, and go from there. But to start off with, as a general market update, we're still seeing a lot of uncertainty in the market, which has led to an uncertain fundraising environment. In 2023, there was a historically low volume of venture capital-led deals, and to some extent, that has spilled over into the beginning months of 2024, election year as well. So that adds to the uncertainty, adds to the volatility. And, while we're seeing an uptick in certain types of transactions, we expect kind of the 2023 trend to continue for at least the coming months. As I mentioned before, because of this kind of market uncertainty, we're seeing a lot of internally led fundraising rounds, right? So as opposed to a new cash investor, potentially a VC or other fund coming in to, lead a fundraising round of a company, it's often the current folks on the cap table, the current investors who are internally leading a new round. And oftentimes that round is kind of earmarked as a bridge round, right? It's not a fresh round, but more so a way to get money into the bank to extend the company's runway from the last round until the next third-party led, outside venture capital or fund-led deal. While some of these bridge rounds can be in the form of a priced round with a, set pre-money valuation and price per share, oftentimes they're structured as convertible securities, which is, as I mentioned at the outset, what I wanted to drill down into today. So the two main types of convertible securities that are prevalent in the fundraising space are convertible notes and simple agreements for future equity, or SAFEs. So why use convertible securities, and why are they prevalent for kind of the internally led bridge rounds? First off, efficiency, right? They're easier to draft, they're easier to negotiate because generally they're shorter documents. They take less time, they take less legal fees. So all in all, just, a more efficient security, oftentimes require less approvals on the corporate side. So again, just leads to the efficiency of these types of securities. The other reason or the other main reason would be around valuation. To do a price round, you obviously need to agree with your investors on a pre-money valuation of the company in order to set the purchase price, et cetera, et cetera. Oftentimes, when you're doing a bridge round, there's some uncertainty about valuation. Maybe because the company and its investors can't agree on a valuation, they're too far apart. Maybe because of the uncertainty in the market, it's hard to kind of earmark a valuation that, again, everyone can agree to. Oftentimes, especially early stage companies, specifically in life sciences, it's hard, if not impossible, to set a valuation. So, because things are changing on a weekly or monthly basis in terms of valuation and the trajectory of the company. So a convertible security, like a convertible note or a safe, is a good way to kind of kick the can down the road on that valuation discussion and have the next outside investor in the next price round set that valuation. So how does it work? Let's start with convertible notes. Both convertible notes and safes effectively work the same way, right? An investor gives the company money. In return, they sign up a note or a safe, which is, an agreement with the investor that basically says, your money that you're giving me today will convert into our next priced round led by somebody else into the same stock that we're selling in that next round at some sort of a discount or kicker. So you get, like I said, a kicker, an incentive for putting in your money now, as opposed to that later round. So convertible notes, as the name suggests, they're promissory notes. Probably another discussion whether courts actually see them as true debt, but they are structured as debt. So as debt, they have some debt-like features. For instance, a maturity date that if the notes aren't converted or otherwise paid before the maturity date, the principal and interest become due and payable. Just mentioned interest. Convertible notes have interest rates, right? Just like your typical debt, your typical promissory note, there's going to be a negotiated interest rate, and that interest will accrue on the principal until it's converted or repaid. Most of the time, if the notes are converted, that interest will be converted alongside the principal into whatever stock is being sold in the next round, as opposed to being sold, or as opposed to being repaid. So when do these notes and safes convert? Typically, it's at the next price round. There can be some guardrails on that. For instance, it has to be a price round that brings in proceeds to the company of at least a certain number, at least a certain level, X million dollars. But generally, it's going to convert into your next priced round. It can also convert in connection with a sale if the notes are still outstanding before they're converted or repaid. Sometimes investors will negotiate repayment multiple. So if you sell, my note's still outstanding, you're going to pay me 2 times my money, or 1.5 times my money, or 3 times my money. Often, besides that, they might negotiate a conversion mechanic so they could see an even greater return. You're typically converting into the common stock or the most senior stock at a time at a predetermined valuation that's negotiated up front. Same with maturity. I guess the standard is at maturity, if it hasn't been repaid or converted, you pay the investor back principal plus interest. But it also can be negotiated that they'll convert into, again, the common stock or most senior preferred stock at the time of the maturity at some pre-negotiated valuation. So how do they convert? Let's say it's the next round. Your notes or safes are now converting into that next round. How do they convert? They're either going to convert at a discount or what's known as a conversion cap or valuation cap. The discount's easy, right? If the stock is being sold at that next round for $1 a share and you have a 10% discount, you're going to convert at 90 cents per share. You get your 10% discount. The conversion cap, on the other hand, is a predetermined, pre-negotiated cap on the valuation you'll convert at. So if that next round has a pre-money valuation of 15 million and you've negotiated a cap of 10 million, your note will convert or your SAFE will convert at that $10 million valuation as opposed to the $15 million valuation, effectively giving you a 33% discount in that example. Oftentimes, investors will also try to negotiate both, so both a discount and a cap. And in that case, the investor gets kind of the better of the two in connection with that next conversion event. Like other debt, there can be extra bells and whistles for a convertible note. Investors can negotiate negative covenants. They can negotiate collateral security interests, prepayment penalties, most favored nation clauses. Basically, the more leverage the investors have, the more bells and whistles, the more rights they're going to negotiate. It can be bare bones and just have the conversion mechanics, but there can also be some extra bells and whistles that are negotiated. So turning to safes, again, generally operate the same way, less the maturity date and interest rate and other kind of debt-like features that I mentioned previously. But basically, they'll convert at the next round at a pre-negotiated discount or valuation cap. The other main difference with safes is that there's a standard form. So Y Combinator, an accelerator and venture capital fund out of the West Coast, came up with this concept, a number of years ago, and has since constantly updated a form of safe that can be accessed by anybody on their website. So there really is a standardized form that is used 9 times out of 10 when you're doing a safe round. So again, that leads to the efficiency, right? There's a standard form, everybody uses it. No need to negotiate something from scratch. While convertible notes are all generally similar, each law firm, each company has their own form. So there's going to be some fresh negotiation in connection with each convertible note. While with the safe, again, there's a standard form, less negotiation, more efficiency, saving money on legal, et cetera, et cetera. Safes can also have some extra bells and whistles, but because there is that standard form, you see less of that. Although there is a YC kind of approved pro rata rights agreement that sometimes will accompany a safe, in which you give your investors a pro rata right to participate in that next round. So you often see a safe and a pro rata rights agreement that are bundled together for safe rounds. Generally speaking, no qualified financing threshold for safes, although that can be negotiated. But generally speaking, that safe is going to convert into the next round at that pre-negotiated discount or cap and effectively operate very similar to a convertible note. In more leveraged situations where the investor has more leverage, they're often going to push for a convertible note because it does have those extra bells and whistles. The maturity date, the interest rate can have some of the other things. But safes, from a company's perspective, are typically the more efficient way to go. So just wanted to give a general update of what we were seeing and the two, convertible securities that we're seeing used more and more these days. Again, both of them are efficient ways for the company to bring in money in a bridge round, and I'm sure a refresher for most of you, but because we have been seeing these more and more, wanted to bring them to light today. So thanks, Tom.
Sean, thank you. We'll turn to Faith now. Before that, just again remind you, if you have questions or comments or want to weigh in, feel free to put it into the chat feature, and we'll pass that along. But Faith, it's now your turn.
Well, that was very interesting, Sean, and always a pleasure to hear your insights and thoughts. Where I'm going to go in the corporate governance front is first to explain to you that corporate governance helps to protect stakeholders' values and interests by performing and holding the organization accountable. Most people, when they think of governance and corporate governance, they think of public company corporate governance. But it is very critical that private companies, from the beginning, have good corporate governance. So, for example, one of the differences between public company and private company corporate governance, in my mind, is just that there are regulatory requirements when it comes to public company corporate governance that are a must, whereas in private company, every private company adopts different policies, processes, and follows certain rules. So, for example, in a public company, you are subject to the Securities and Exchange requirements, your agency requirements such as the NASDAQ or NYSE American or a foreign exchange, as well as the law of your state. In a private situation, you're responsible for the laws of your state. So what are some of the different issues that governance includes? Fairness, all stakeholders should be treated equally. Transparency, you should not keep secrets from your shareholders. And it's very difficult today to keep secrets from shareholders given social media and AI, and we can talk about that. Leadership, governance oversees key strategies and leads a culture to help the business perform at its best. Stakeholder engagement, ensuring that significant stakeholders are engaging with the business to be in a position for the business to perform the best possible. And again, and accountability, owning and embracing strategies as well as the tasks needed to achieve the organization's long-term goals. So let's talk about when I represent a private company, from the very beginning, I try to have similar corporate governance strategies that I would adopt for when I represent public companies. Obviously, it all depends on the size of your company, of your private company and the like. So I'm going to focus a little bit on the smaller companies since I think that's a little bit more of the audience here. When I work with private companies, and generally, as Tom mentioned, I am very involved in the life sciences industry. So I focus a little bit on what's going to be important at the end of the day for a life science company. And I think that for any life science company that will ultimately bring in venture capitalists, will bring in, will choose to do a public offering or even an M&A transaction or even a strategic collaboration, it's important that you have good governance because everybody is going to look at your processes that you have in place. So what I do is I would expect that, initially usually a lot of founders that are in management. And so I think that the founders should surround themselves by a very good board of directors. In the life science space, those directors may come in all different shapes and sizes. So for example, I would hope that if I would recommend to the principal stockholders and the CEO, for example, that they find people with industry experience in the life sciences space and start with somebody, for example, that has a good financial experience in the space, probably somebody that is a scientist or a medical doctor that understands the space so that they could help in what you do, maybe perhaps even a lawyer that has good governance and strategy experience or IP experience. Now today, where a big issue is cybersecurity. If you don't have that in-house, perhaps you want to find somebody with that kind of experience. And then I would always leave room for people that are diverse candidates on your board. So at least depending upon your state, you may have to have more than one diverse candidate. And again, I'm focusing on private companies now, so I'm not looking at NASDAQ or any of that. So I would always try to find, if possible, a diverse candidate. And diverse can mean many different types of candidates, whether it's a female, whether it's by way of, how you declare your identity or your race and the like. So I think it's really important to focus on that from a board standpoint. And that's going to help you because they will help the management team and the significant stockholders with issues that, one person doesn't necessarily know how to do. They will also help you with certain help with risk management oversight. They'll help you with a company strategy, which you may think, for example, that you know what the strategy is as a founder or as a principal investor. But at the end of the day, the people that will be on your board will weigh into what the strategy, will weigh into what your strategy should be short term as well as long term. They will look at how you're financed, and they will let you, and a lot of times, and I know this because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I've been on private company boards, as well as I serve on public company boards. So I do know that, you'll have a certain amount of money in the bank. I think you can do a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, you're going to need to know what could you do short term with that money? What are you going to need to know for a longer term? And boards can help you with that. They will help you. One thing that is really important is conflicts of interest. So oftentimes, for example, the principal stockholder may have a conflict of interest with the company, and the boards actually can help oversee the conflict of interest situations, and that's quite important. Another thing that is important is putting the right policies in place from the beginning. So what are some of those policies? I believe that you should you should put in things like a social media policy. What are you allowed to say and not say to the public? You should put in, you should have good corporate governance guidelines and codes of ethics for your companies. You should have a good, strong employee manual so that your employees understand what's required of them. Some of the other policies, for example, would be, you might have one on cybersecurity, especially given in the life science industries. It's really a matter of time that you're going to be hacked. And the last thing you want to do is have your clinical trial information, for example, hacked. So you might want to put in some very, very strong cybersecurity policies and data privacy policies. You might want to take a look at all your agreements and make sure that those are protected from data breaches and the like. And so agreements you have with third parties, and make sure that you own all your intellectual property. So there's a lot of different things you can put in place. Also, I know a lot of private companies do not like to put in place, they don't think, oh, we need committees. So for example, in a public company, you're required to have an audit committee and a comp committee, and most have non-gov committees as well. And then a lot of public companies also have science and technology committees and the like. Again, it really all depends. But you know what? It's good to start with that early, and we can assist you in putting an audit charter, a comp committee charter, a non-gov charter, so that different people within the company, smaller groups of people, can help guide the management team and the stakeholders for what's correct. Now, why does all this matter, right? This matters because your suppliers might want to know what's going on within your company. Your employees might want to know what's coming in. Your investors, your future investors, right? Whether, like I said, whether they're VCs or you want to go public, they're going to look, and you're going to get brownie points if you have good governance. The last thing you want to do is take a company public and start from the beginning to adopt all these policies. That takes time, that takes money, and it's really unnecessary because it doesn't cost a lot to do it right from the beginning. Again, and also if you want to sell your companies, they're going to look at what your policies are. They're going to want to see all this, and you will get a better price at selling your company if you have good governance. I can't guarantee that, but it's likely that they will look at you and say, wow, they have, good expense policy. They have good procedures. They actually know what they're doing. And I think that's key. And, oftentimes if you want to do a strategic license, they might look at that as well. So in my mind, I think you start from the beginning. You really try to have good counsel that can help guide you into what you should be doing. And again, none of this should cost a lot of money if you do it at the beginning. What ends up happening is if you don't do it at the beginning, then it costs you a lot of money to catch up. So my recommendation is to try to work with people that can really benefit you. Don't put people on your boards that have no benefit to you just because they're your friends, because that's just not going to help you. And again, there's organizations that can help you find good directors if you can't find them. You can talk to various people. You can call me. I can try to help you find the appropriate people. But I really believe a strong board is ultimately going to help you too with when you're ready to take in new rounds of financing, go public, sell your company, or even do a collaboration. So I hope that you got something out of this. Again, always available to answer questions and assist in any way possible. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. And I hope this was helpful. I'll turn it back to Tom.
Faith, thank you very much. It was quite helpful. And Sean, thank you as well. This underscores the value of Ohio Life Sciences as a network and a community that these ideas and thoughts can be thrown around and chatted and worked through so we can all get better together. So I did not see any questions or comments in the chat. You'll have the contact information provided to you after the meeting. And so feel free to reach out to any of us if you've got questions or want to talk about this further. Our next session will be next Wednesday, same time, same channel. We'll hear from Jim Fraser and Marla Isbicki, two more of my colleagues. Jim practices in the FDA and regulated healthcare industry and will be speaking on hot topics in FDA regulation. Marla is a colleague of mine in the privacy and cybersecurity practice and will be talking about hot topics in privacy and cybersecurity, which delivers us news weekly, if not daily. And we'll be looking forward to that. So look forward to your mailboxes for information about next week's, the third of the 4 webinars in our series. And I hope you have a great day, even on this foggy day here in Cleveland, Ohio, if you're here with me. Take care and have a wonderful day.